So what'd you do last week during the DNC?
Well, I spent most of my time whipping Republicans into voting for Kamala Harris. And when I say whipping, I do mean whipping. Cat o' nine tails. Worked on Jesus.
I don't think that's right, but probably necessary for Republicans at this point. How many did you get?
Well, let's see. There's the 6 Republicans that spoke with the DNC, obviously. The several former Trump officials who have either endorsed Kamala Harris or denounced the former president altogether, and then the over 200 Bush, Romney, and McCain officials who signed an open letter endorsing Kamala Harris and criticizing Donald Trump. That said, I think I did my job quite nicely, especially thanks to my good old whip made of leather embedded with pieces of broken bone and glass. We'll strip the skin right off a centrist Republican.
God damn, dude. I guess thanks for your horrifying work, which might lead to a Harris victory at this point.
Well, not necessarily.
Oh, god damn it, why not?
Well, you and the rest of America will have to find out tonight on America, the podcast.
Hello, America! It's America, the podcast!
All right, so after all of this fun honeymoon, Tim Walz is a new America's dad bullshit, how are we losing this election, man?
4 words. Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Oh, what? Fuck off.
I'm just kidding. That man cannot swing a single vote. Most of his voters will actually stay home. Very few of them will actually support Trump, 1% across all of the swing states. Not to mention, another story came out about how he cut off the head of a whale and put it in his car.
Jesus Christ, are you fucking kidding me?
I am not. Apparently it was beached and dead, and, well, when they put it in the car and drove off, it started to splatter everywhere.
Jesus Christ, how did anybody ever support this man?
Lots of reasons. He's a Kennedy for start, so name recognition alone gets him a few votes. He's also semi-progressive, apparently pretty healthy, minus the whole brainworm thing. He's viewed as a political outsider from the Republican and Democratic parties. His wife was on Curb Your Enthusiasm, which is a huge selling point for at least half of the country.
No, it is not.
I know, I just ran out of reasons why people would like RFK Jr.
Right, so what? Basically, people are just tired of the same old thing, right?
Well, in a word, yes. In 1,000 words or so, it's this. Americans have grown tired of the two-party system. Now, some might say there are other parties, but they are not viable parties. The Libertarian and Green parties are just simply not going to ever work in this country, at least for a few more decades. Granted, the Greens have some sway in England, but that's a much smaller country than these United States of America. Not to mention the politics of both of those parties are a little too fringe for the rest of the greater country at large. My very important and correct advice to the Green Party is simply this. You all, more or less, align with the Democratic Party, morally, at least on a few of your key policies. So, why not simply align yourselves with the Democratic Party, i.e. a party with a ton of money, i.e. the thing you need to win a political election, thereby making some sort of coalition party and moving them more towards the left, towards greener policies which are better for capitalism and thereby better for America. And maybe drop Jill Stein, who's totally not a Russian asset. Wink.
You can't say wink, man.
Then how will people know what I really think?
I don't know, tell the truth, man.
I always tell the truth, except when I don't.
Oh my god. What about the Libertarians?
Oh, they're a lost cause. They want to get rid of the fire department and trash pickups. I don't know. I don't know where their head's at. I mean, they're the ones who insist on bringing Vermin Supreme to their convention every year, so that should tell you something.
You mean the wizard with a boot on his head?
Exactly. The most famous libertarian candidate for almost 2 decades is a wizard who wears a boot on his head.
Jesus Lord. Listen, all right, I get being, fed up with the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. I don't even really consider myself a Democrat. I just vote Democrat because that's the lesser of two evils, right?
Indeed. It's the American way.
Well, it shouldn't be because it's pissed off Americans so much that a huge swath of them are willing to stay home instead of voting, and then another huge swath of them are willing to vote for either a wizard with a boot on his head, one of 2 possible Russian assets, or a man who put a dead baby bear in Central Park so he wasn't late for his $1,000 steak dinner, and now we're finding out also cut the head off of a dead whale.
Indeed, and I believe you just answered your original question.
Which was what?
Well, at the top of the show, you asked in less sophisticated words, words than I am saying right now whether or not this would actually be a solid Harris victory. And I said, well, you'll have to find out tonight on America, the podcast. And then the theme came on and now we're here.
Right, so thanks to general American disgruntledness, Harris might not win this?
Exactly, despite her running a campaign of hope and change and progress, and Trump running a campaign of fear and more fear, this may not be a straightforward victory.
So then what needs to be done?
Well, firstly, I do think the Democrats are doing a very good job of getting the message of hope, joy, and change out there right now, but Kamala needs to actually go about doing an interview and laying out her actual policies, which she has laid out a few, but not enough. And granted, neither has Trump, but people like Trump, and Kamala's new, so...
I mean, I hear a lot of people talk about how Trump has the Riz and that, Biden didn't have any of it, and I feel like Kamala does, and Tim Walz definitely does, so is that going to help them enough?
The Riz?
Charisma, it's a Gen Z word.
Well, you are a millennial, and I am one of the founding fathers, so let's not kid ourselves here and speak our normal language, shall we?
Fine, whatever, but Trump's charisma, do you really think it can beat out Kamala Harris? I mean, on an old episode of ours, you called her a wet blanket and thought Gavin Newsom was going to be the Democratic nominee if Joe Biden dropped out.
And I did an episode by myself explaining how wrong I was. That hurts.
Yeah, I listened to that, and I kind of agreed for a while too, but I now view the exact opposite. I mean, her choice with Walz and just simply, touting giving $25,000 to first-time home buyers and wanting to help control food and, pharmaceutical prices and things like that. Like, they call it communist, but, they also call the weekend communist back in the day.
Yes, indeed. It was the only red commie policy I was actually in favor of because none of my workers were working very well because they were getting tired or whatever they like to call it, and so we pushed for the weekend.
You helped start the weekend?
Indeed, and once I did that, my profits shot through the goddamn roof. How do you think I became a trillionaire?
See, this is what I'm talking about. All of these conservative Republicans have switched to voting for Kamala Harris because they understand that these policies actually work just like you did. And you were a Republican conservative for years.
Well, as my dear friend Bernie Sanders says, let me be clear. I am still a conservative, a fiscal conservative. The Republican Party abandoned those morals years ago. Versus now where they only make the rich slightly richer and focus solely on culture wars.
For the audience, explain the difference in your views and the general Republican Party at large.
Well, like I said, they usually only want to focus now on dumb issues like whether or not trans people are using the right bathroom, the gay agenda, the war on Christmas, which is real, but it's a supernatural one that Timothy and I fight in every year, and you're welcome, America.
Oh yeah, we have saved Christmas quite a few times. You should check those episodes out, everyone.
Indeed, but as for the Republican Party at large, they seem to have lost focus on what really matters to them. That's making me, and others like me, rich. For instance, if you paid women equally, you would add trillions of dollars to the economy. If our great country guaranteed housing, education, and healthcare as a right, you would not only have a housed and healthy and educated society, but you would again add trillions of dollars to the economy. And let's not forget renewable energy. If you were to take subsidies away from the evil oil companies, of which I am heavily invested in, thank you very much, and moved it to renewable energy, something I am also invested in, thank you very much, and put those subsidies towards things like geothermal energy, wind, and solar, you would create millions of jobs and add, again, trillions of dollars to the economy. Just these things alone might even make it to where you don't, say, have to tax any of the billionaires.
Oh, we're gonna, don't you worry, because think about all of the other shit we could pay for if we just applied, a 5-cent tax on anything you guys make? Not to mention the 1-cent tax on every stock trade that was proposed by Bernie Sanders.
Well, while that may be a mathematically and morally good idea, I guarantee it will not happen because, fun fact, the Democratic Party is a big tent party. Granted, I am on the outside of that tent, or at least a guest in it right now, because I'm supporting Democrats this time because I don't want the country to die, but it is still a party supported by billionaires like myself, Bill Gates, Mark Cuban, and Jeff Bezos. And even at one point, Donald Trump.
So what's the solution? Do like what you told the Green Party to do and just keep pushing the Democrats towards the left?
Well, if that's where you want them to go, then yes, because all of these policies I mentioned earlier technically are leftist policies, even though they're the most capitalist policies I can possibly think of.
I mean, I'm not going to disagree, but why do you think giving away things is capitalist again?
Because, my friend, patience is a virtue. By implementing these quote-unquote leftist policies in just under a decade and a half, America would be flush with cash. And don't get me started on the benefits of bringing in all of the territories as states.
I mean, I always knew you kind of had these, beliefs in you, but like, it's just, from knowing you're a conservative or at least were a Republican and everything, it just sounds very radical and revolutionary.
Well, I did help start the American Revolution, so it kind of comes with the territory.
Didn't you literally cause the Boston Massacre?
That's all hearsay.
Dude, we traveled back in time and watched you do it.
Well, I guess the American people are just going to have to go back and listen to America, the podcast presents the American Revolution back in our podcast feed.
Which will be out on its own feed eventually. Lots of cool shit coming, everybody.
Indeed. That means you and I should probably get out of here and go work on those new and wonderful things.
Wow, work ethic from a billionaire. Who knew?
Timothy, do you want me to do an entire episode defending billionaires?
No.
Then I suggest we get out of here. Thanks for listening, everybody. Don't forget to follow America the Podcast on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube under @AmericaThePodcast. And be sure to follow our new favorite news show, Cute News, on cute.news on TikTok and Cute News Team on YouTube. Again, that's Cute News, the latest news stories delivered to you by the cutest correspondents on the internet. And remember, register to vote at vote.org or check your registration there if you are unsure if you're registered already. As for me, I will be in your ears again in 2 weeks. For now, and as always, good night and good fight.
It's America, the podcast.
You've been listening to America, the Podcast, the original series. The show stars Tim Phillippe and Thebadiah starred the embodiment of and only hope for America as themselves. Any additional voices heard in this episode were portrayed by the fabulous cast of voice actors listed in the show notes. The amazing America, the Podcast theme song you are listening to is by Timmy Two-Step, and all other music and sounds heard in this show were procured through Storyblocks, Pixabay, freesound.org, and Sonus. America, the Podcast is recorded at Shway Media Studios in Austin, Texas, and is mixed and edited by Tim Phillippe. Executive producers for this show are Alana Matos, Tim Phillippe, and Thebadiah Stard. For more information, please visit shwaymedia.com and americathepodcast.com. Copyright 2024, all rights reserved.
This has been a production of Shway Media, all rights reserved. For more information, please visit shwaymedia.com.